All right, here's a turnabout, which should be we're going to attempt a one-take squeezy assembly. I'll do some talking while I'm at it, but there are already instructions. This will be a full unboxing, unbagging experience here. So if you've ordered a squeezy kit, this is generally how you'll get it. Should have all the parts in there. See that there's individual arms with a gap up, and got our lighter weight wheels in case you want to try and find a little bit of room for creativity. Self-riding mechanism, slider, shoulder, claws. So that one will go like that. That's the best way to show. That one will fit in there. That one will fit in there. Shoulder goes in there to pivot on. Get you a little charm in case you want to carry it around. So this is starting from a pre-soldered setup. Startabout servo has some thermal stall protection built in. If you stall it for more than a couple seconds, it temporarily turns off till it gets another signal. It tends to keep them from getting nearly as hot. Particularly a lot of classrooms are really liking this one. For full battle, the KST is still the way to go, but these have treated us well. So among the first things to do is always to kind of set up the servo. So we've got our pre-soldered Malenki, we've got a set of motors, battery. We'll go ahead and do the full unboxing of Glass Guy FSI 6. Brand spanking new. So we can connect the switches off, connect the battery, connecting the servo. You always want to be aware of yellow to yellow, brown to brown. Make sure you put those in right. And the motors will plug into their connectors. It is the exact same harness between Squeezy, Slipper, and Slammer. So you can always alternate everything between them. So we'll go ahead and turn this on. First time you should have a red and a flashing blue. On these you just hold the bind key, turn it on, binding okay. That's it. So you can see where motors are moving, servo's moving. I like to set up the servo while it's loose, makes life a little bit easier. So with Squeezy, it'll be, when it's down, the arms will be forward and wide. Then when you hit it, it'll pull back. So all the way up, we definitely don't need to go down past horizontal. There's generally plenty of servo range for a Squeezy with these servos. With the Malenki, you do have the servo stretcher option, but it is unlikely to need that. I feel pretty good about that. It'll be plenty far forward to push the link. Speaking of link, when you get the kit, the link is often tucked up in there, so you'll want to take that out. So the servo will go into that pocket. The link will go there. That'll be pushing the slider on top of the shoulder. So you can see that That'll be pushing those arms plenty far forward. And then when you've grabbed, the Strimac will be all the way back there like that. Just hooks right in. So we're getting the maximum sweep out of that we can. So there we go. We know that this is how we want it. Go ahead and turn this off. I like to go ahead and disconnect the battery just so I don't have to worry about it. I'll actually go ahead and disconnect this for the moment. Now, take care not to lose where we put that. Go ahead and turn this off so it doesn't yell at us. Put it aside. The servo screw in. Now, servo screws are often odd pitches, so do your best not to lose servo screws. One of these days we'll figure out what all the pitches actually are and make sure we have some spares. But for the moment, don't lose your servo screws. Because I'm very confident in where I had that one, I'm going to go ahead and tighten down on that pretty hard. Squeezy has a good amount of force that it uses the servo for. So there we go. We can mount the servo now, but often I like to go ahead and set everything else up, make sure everything's fitting the way we want it to, and then get that in there. So what we'll actually do first is get the Malenki and the motors in. So to fit Malenki into these, so you can see there's an R and an L, so this will be the right motor when the bot's going forward. That's the right side. The other motor is the left side, so we'll be getting the Malenki to live up in the pocket, and again the right motor on this side, left motor on that side. So it'll be going in there a lot like that. As these bots are designed to be fully competitive, they are absolutely as compact as we could possibly make them. So it is very tidy to get these in there. That said, there should be plenty of room for everything to comfortably fit. So there's motor retention features, these bumps on the inside that actually lock the motors in place. So that way, even if the zip ties get cut, the motors don't generally pop out. You can actually run them without zip ties, but zip ties are a good backup for it. Getting the motors in without damaging those motor retention features is a bit of a blend of flexing the chassis open just a bit. So you don't want to flex it too much because you don't want to stress it there, but you also want to minimize the damage. You can see it just barely flexed that a smidge. And this side, make sure we're getting a nice wrap on those. Like he tucks up in there. The switch will be running around over to there, as does the servo. The motor itself is going to flat up in there. So making sure that the harnesses fit in both bots, all three bots, means that there's a little bit extra wire for the squeezies. There we go. So you can see that those popped in there real well. I mean, you could force those out, but you really don't want to, because like I said, it can damage those features. We will go ahead and add zip ties towards the end. So make sure we got room for all these pieces. switch is going to route over here to that's where the battery will be mounting. Switch goes that way. Servo comes this way. Go ahead and drop the servo in. It is nice to mount the servo before there's too much stuff in there, because you're going to be able to reach the servo mounting holes. So you can use those Phillips self-tappers that came with it. Given that there's a slight angle on it, you can also use our standard hex screws. We'll go ahead and set this one up with our standard hex screws. So we do ship it with hex drivers. Having these Wera Hex Plus, it's really nice. They take a very firm grip. In fact, if you strip fasteners with the other drivers, these Wera Hex Plus can still actually break them loose. So you want these snug, because again, that servo sees a lot of force, but remember, you're just going into plastic, so you don't want to strip them. But I do make them pretty good and tight. There's my servo in place. There's enough room in here for this. Kind of tuck in there like that. And the servo's gonna move. It only goes about that far forward. So the motor connectors can fully live ahead of it. And the shoulder won't interfere, because the shoulder generally doesn't go back past flat. So the servo wires, we're going to get tucked down over here next to the servo. I'm going to try and keep all that nice and tidy, and I'll show you how we'll use the zip tie for the motors to help with the wiring. So if you ever need to tidy this up even more, there's a lot of servo wire over here. That's what comes on the servo, and it could be nice if you had to put the servo far from the control board. But generally, we just spiral that up into the corner, and then being careful of our orientation, so the connector is yellow up, brown down. I'm going to make sure that this side is also yellow up, brown down. Put those in. So physically, that can be done backwards. So you do want to take care to make those connect properly. So that, like I said, it does fit in there rather snugly. The top armor will help hold that down, and we'll use the zip tie from that motor to help hold these wires in place. It's not a bad idea to electrical tape or heat shrink or put something over the Malenkis themselves so that they can't short, but it's not actually necessary. Malenki will float down there, so it's not going to take any hits or have shocks won't affect it too much. We do have charge port mounts, which make it really nice to be able to easily plug the charger in. Charge port mounts are necessarily quite tight, so you need to make sure that goes in there real straight and lined up. And then that's retained so that you can pretty easily connect the charging cable. We give extensions on all the charging cables. This is a 300 milliamp hour battery, which will last quite a while, like 20-25 minutes plus. If you find yourself needing weight, the 180 milliamp hour or less will actually makes it easier to make weight with more things on it. So generally mount the switch right there. So I was right at first. So I have to admit I haven't put one of these back together. I did design it, but I haven't put one together in a little while. So yeah, route the wires like that, and the switch will go there. We can have the actual battery connector live on top of the servo. I know it is kind of fiddly how we're arranging it all at the moment. But it's worth it, and you'll see how the top plate and armor and everything hold everything in place pretty well as we go to assemble it. So with everything back in place, it never hurts to check it again. So flipping it on. So that all seems to be working. So brand new radio. You'll see that the receiver battery is showing maxed out. That's because how the default settings are. So with these radios, often you got to push OK once to light the screen up, wake it up, hold it again. You can go set up the receiver battery, RX setup right there, RX battery, and you can't raise this above that. So I usually start here and bring this one all the way up, and this one all the way up, and this one all the way up. So I like to make sure that I can see more than what I expect the battery ever to go to. So I go all the way to 8.5 for the high. I really don't want the battery to go down under 3.6 volts per cell. So being a 2S, we'll set that to 7.2. And then for low, again, I don't want to see that hit the bottom. So I'm going to set this to 6.8. And if I see that thing get all the way to the bottom, that's 3.4 volts per cell. It certainly shouldn't be there for any length of time. And you still have to hold cancel to save all those settings. So it's a brand new battery, hasn't been charged yet. It's still at the storage charge. So it's sitting pretty close to the middle at 7.7 volts. And I have not put the wheels on yet. That's quite intentional. So that one's going backwards. That one is also backwards. So we'll be switching at least channel 2. We'll be reversing at least channel 2. So that'll have me forwards there and forwards there. So yeah, we can go ahead and see. So going to the left, this one should go forwards. It doesn't, so we'll go back around and switch that one. Now I go left. Okay, I've done that one backwards. So this way should go forwards. There it is. Yeah, it was right the first time. All right, so that's how we end up. Hold cancel to set. We're going the right direction. Servo sweep is good. We can turn the radio off, turn the bot off, and then start assembling the rest of the mechanism. So what we'll do is, the next step will be the claws, and of course, I'll have the glue right back. So this is our favorite glue plus accelerator. You get it on Amazon. It's $12 for one of these. This package should last several bots, several years, really, depending on how much you need it. Like I said, BSI, available on Amazon. And what we're going to do is glue all four sides of this where it'll meet up to this, and then we spray the accelerator in here and then put it in there. So put a decent amount, not too much glue on that end. The cloud doesn't come all the way down there, and you want it to move around, so none on that side. Now, you don't want the accelerator or activator to get anywhere near your open glue bottle. So what I do is, after I've put glue on it, I always reclose the bottle. Gonna hang this off the edge of the table so it can't get on anything. This is the only claw I've picked up, so I know it's the right one. And just one decent spritz to get the activator in there. And then I like to sight, double check. And you really only have about 1 second of working time. So you want to go ahead and get this thing in there, not goof around. Once it's in, I'll kind of wiggle it and get it to touch both sides. Then, just in case, I tend to give it another spritz in there for a few seconds. I mean, I might be able to physically rip that out, but in general, those two are now one piece until something much bigger than 150 grams wants to separate them. And a lot of times they get hit with a spinning weapon in a battle box, of course. It'll actually destroy the claw before it rips it off. It'll leave some of the claw on the arm. I'm going to do the same on this side. Not going to touch that just in case I have activator on my fingers, because I don't want to contaminate the bottle. So again, good coating there. I suppose technically it's a full 5 sides, maybe, if you include the bottom. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and close this all the way up. Then carefully put that where it's not going to fall or get glue on anything. Take my other claw and make sure I've got activator everywhere in there. Take my arm, and again, one motion. You do not have long from when the glue contacts the activator. They claim a 3-second working time. I've often said it's more like 1 second. A lot of it depends on just how tight it is, but that is already very much so one piece. I'm going to give it a spritz just in case there was some glue that didn't come in contact with activator, and that way I know that there's no wet super glue that's going to risk sticking somebody to it. So it's my claw assembly. We're done with that for now. So I like the travel case. I tend to keep it together. So then do show in the instructions. Sometimes we'll file that. Generally, it doesn't need it. And for a long time, we used washers that have been punched like normal washers, these are actually turned on a lathe. These are aluminum washers, so they generally don't have perceptible burrs like a stamped one. If you're using stamped washers, you want to make sure that you're aware of which side the burr is on, because you want it to slide. So you would want the burr up. These are aluminum screws. So getting this complicated on the bot did not leave a lot of room for a lot of extra weight. So hence the necessity to use even aluminum screws. Do generally like assembling these to here first. Uh, Scratch that. We usually do this side first. So you want this to be able to slide real nicely like that. And we'll be putting these into here. Do quite like these changeable and ratcheting uh, hobby drivers, but you could use anything to do it. So do want to be aware. So these are the zip tie mounts for the claws. They make ground scraping wedges, so those will be at the bottom. The link goes on the top. Even recently, I have misassembled these like the wrong way. So be aware that that's how it's gonna go. Zip ties down, link on the top. And we'll want to make sure that we keep this nice and square. My goodness. Oh, try this again. Try to keep it in the frame. Wasn't sure if they'd be finger runnable or not. Do want to make sure I'm going in good and square. So, like I said, this one's ratcheting, which is quite nice. So we want it precise but not tight. You can certainly go all the way down to snug and then back off a quarter, or you can go just until there's almost no angle perceptible slop in there. Look at that, I'm gonna end up wishing I'd filed it. So you can see how it's not wanting to fully slide right there. Go ahead and run the file on the top. That's what I get for skipping steps. So several of these pieces actually have sliding surfaces on both sides, which adds to the challenge. So because the slider has to slide on the top of the arm, I like the bottom side to be very smooth. Same thing with the shoulder. The shoulder to the arms is what's printed on the bed, so they're nice and smooth, and they this will be this side. That's what carries the most load. So those are the two smooth surfaces. But that means that this surface is not quite as smooth, and this surface is, but this one isn't. So any fairly fine file should knock those ridges off. Also found that a single drop of something like 3-in-1 oil will keep Squeezy's mechanism sliding smoothly for a long time and not binding. All right, let's try this again. Ah, much better. Let's add this step to the instructions. So that was pretty darn good. Yeah. So no, not able to get any real angle on it. We'll just keep going. All right. So what you can do is go down until it actually snugs, like until it binds, then back off. Okay, eighth of a turn, maybe. So now we've got our precision sliding pivoting joint. We'll do the same for the other side. Go through there. Top. Well, it's a lot like Tonga Derby cars. When you put in the work, it works better. You know, you can't absolutely just button these up. It'll work, but to really